The arrival. Admiral Reyna Kelso stood motionless on the command deck of the NSV Endurance, the flagship of what remained of the Novan Alliance fleet. Through the massive viewscreen, she watched as another of her ships erupted into a ball of plasma and twisted metal. The Vraxian Dominion vessels moved with practiced precision, encircling what remained of her once proud armada like predators closing in for the kill. "Status report," she demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding before her. Commander Tavik approached, his typically immaculate uniform now stained with hydraulic fluid from emergency repairs. "Shields at 17%, Admiral. We've lost engines 3 and 4. Weapons systems are operating at minimal capacity. The Celestial and Horizon are still operational but heavily damaged. The civilian evacuation transports." His voice trailed off. "How many civilians still in the system?" Kelso asked, dreading the answer. "At least 8,000, spread across 12 transports. They won't make it to the jump point before the Vraxians intercept them." Kelso's four-fingered hands gripped the command rail. The Novan Alliance, spanning 27 star systems and home to billions of beings across 8 species, had fought the Vraxian Dominion for 16 years. Their technological edge had kept them in the fight despite being outnumbered, but the Vraxians had finally adapted. This battle in the Centauri Reach was supposed to be a strategic withdrawal, not a last stand. "They're hailing us, Admiral," Communications Officer Merida reported. "The Vraxian Supreme Commander demands our unconditional surrender. They're giving us 5 minutes before they begin targeting civilian vessels." The command deck fell silent. Everyone knew what Vraxian mercy entailed: forced labor, resource extraction, and systematic cultural erasure. The Vraxians didn't conquer, they consumed. "Prepare to broadcast our sir," Kelso began, the words like acid in her mouth. "Admiral," the sensor operator interrupted. "I'm detecting an unusual energy signature at the edge of the system." Kelso turned sharply. "Vraxian reinforcements." "No, sir. The pattern doesn't match anything in our database. It's unlike anything I've ever seen." A low hum built throughout the ship as the sensors registered the growing anomaly. On the main view screen, a point of brilliant blue-white light appeared at the system's edge, rapidly expanding into a swirling vortex of energy. "All ships are detecting it," Tavik reported, checking incoming transmissions. "Even the Vraxian fleet has broken formation to respond." The vortex stabilized, and then something emerged. It was a ship, but unlike any vessel Kelso had ever seen. Its design was angular and functional, lacking both the organic curves of Novan vessels and the jagged symmetry of Vraxian craft. It was smaller than the capital ships of either fleet, perhaps only 2/3 the size of the Endurance, but something about it radiated power. "They're broadcasting," Merida said, her voice filled with disbelief. "In perfect alliance common." "Put it through," Kelso ordered. A calm, confident voice filled the command deck. "This is Captain Marcus Chen of the TES Pathfinder, United Earth Defense Force. We notice you're having some trouble. Mind if we even the odds?" "Earth," Tavik whispered. "I've never heard of such a world." The Pathfinder moved with surprising speed, positioning itself between the Novan fleet and the advancing Vraxian ships. Its hull gleamed with an unusual metallic luster, and what appeared to be weapon ports were clearly visible along its sides. "They're being hailed by the Vraxian flagship," Merida reported. "The Supreme Commander is ordering them to withdraw from Vraxian territory immediately." Kelso watched, fascinated, as the unknown ship held its position. What was this Earth? And why would they intervene in a war that was already lost? "The new vessel is scanning both fleets," reported the sensor officer. "Detailed scans. They're mapping our damaged systems, weapons capabilities, crew complement, everything." On the screen, several Vraxian cruisers broke formation, moving to surround the intruder. It was standard Vraxian procedure. They never negotiated from a position of equality. "The Earth ship is transmitting again on all frequencies," Merida said. "They want both sides to hear." The same calm voice filled the command deck again. "Vraxian vessels, please maintain your distance. We're here on a diplomatic mission and would prefer to avoid conflict. However, we will defend ourselves if necessary." The Vraxian response was immediate. 3 of their attack craft surged forward, weapon systems powering up. What happened next left everyone on the Novan command deck speechless. The Pathfinder fired what appeared to be a series of small, precisely targeted energy pulses. Each struck a Vraxian ship with surgical precision, disabling engines and weapons without causing catastrophic damage. The attack craft drifted, powerless but intact. "That's impossible," Tavik breathed. "Their targeting systems, the precision." Even more shocking was the speed. The entire exchange had taken less than 3 seconds. "We are receiving a direct transmission to our ship," Marita said. "Private channel." Kelso straightened her uniform as best she could. "Put it through." The view screen shifted to show the interior of the Earth vessel's bridge. It was clean, efficient, and staffed by beings that looked remarkably similar to Novans themselves, though their skin lacked the characteristic blue tint and their ears were rounded rather than pointed. A figure in the center seat nodded respectfully. "Admiral Kelso, I presume." "I'm Captain Marcus Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. I apologize for arriving unannounced, but our intelligence suggested we might be needed here." Kelso found her voice. "Your assistance is appreciated, Captain Chen, but I'm afraid you've arrived too late. Our fleet is defeated, and the Vraxian force still vastly outnumbers us both." Captain Chen smiled slightly. "Numbers aren't everything, Admiral. We've been observing this conflict for some time, and we believe the Novan Alliance deserves the chance to maintain its independence. The Vraxian fleet is moving to attack position," Tavik warned, looking at his tactical display. "They'll target your ship first. You should withdraw while you can," Kelso told the Earth captain. Chen's expression remained confident. "That won't be necessary. In fact, I'd like to propose something that might surprise you. We'd like to negotiate a ceasefire between your peoples." Kelso couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped her. "The Vraxians don't negotiate unless they're winning." "Then perhaps we need to adjust their perspective on who's winning," Chen replied. "Admiral, sending you some tactical data. I suggest you prepare what functional weapons you have left. Things are about to get interesting." The transmission ended, and almost immediately, tactical information began flowing to the Novan battle computers. The data showed weaknesses in Vraxian ships that the Alliance had never identified, optimal firing solutions, and suggestions for regrouping their damaged fleet. "Sir," the weapons officer called out, "these targeting parameters, they would allow us to disable the Vraxian vessels without destroying them." Tavik studied the incoming data with wide eyes. "This technology, it's beyond anything we've seen." On the main screen, the Pathfinder began to move, accelerating toward the Vraxian fleet with surprising speed. The massive enemy formation, dozens of ships strong, oriented toward the single challenger. Admiral Kelso stood straighter, feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. "All ships," she commanded, "implement the targeting data from the Earth vessel. Prepare to engage on my mark." As the Vraxian fleet opened fire on the Pathfinder, Kelso watched in amazement as the smaller ship moved with impossible agility, energy weapons lancing out with precision to disable rather than destroy. The battle wasn't over after all. It was just beginning. The turning point. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder, calmly assessing the tactical display. Earth had been observing this conflict from afar for years, gathering intelligence and learning the languages of both sides. Humanity had debated intervention for months, but the decision had finally been made when Vraxian expansion threatened to destabilize the entire sector. A sector that contained several habitable worlds Earth had quietly marked for future colonization. "They're hailing us, Captain," Lieutenant Rivera reported. On screen, Chen replied, straightening his uniform jacket. The Vraxian Supreme Commander appeared on the main view screen, His reptilian features were set in what humans had learned was an expression of outrage. The translator rendered his hissing speech into clear words. "Unknown vessel, this conflict does not concern you. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Chen smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "I'm afraid I can't do that. We've studied your war, and we've concluded that the galaxy would be better off if the Novans remained independent. You have no authority here," the Vraxian commander snarled. "One ship against our fleet is suicide." "Perhaps," Chen agreed, "but you might want to reconsider your position." He nodded to his tactical officer. "Commander Park, show them what we can do. Target the lead destroyer. Weapon systems only." "Targeting, Captain," Park replied, her fingers dancing across the control panel. The Pathfinder's weapon systems came online, revealing technology neither the Novans nor Vraxians had ever encountered. Graviton beams that ignored conventional shields and quantum torpedoes that phased through matter before detonation. A single pulse of blue-white energy leaped from the Pathfinder's forward array. It passed directly through the Vraxian vessel's shields as if they weren't there, striking with pinpoint accuracy. The destroyer's weapon ports went dark immediately. "Their flagship is powering weapons," Lieutenant Rivera reported. "Let them fire," Chen said calmly. "Everyone needs a good demonstration." The Vraxian flagship launched a volley of energy torpedoes. Under normal circumstances, even one such weapon could cripple a vessel of the Pathfinder size. The bridge crew watched without flinching as the torpedoes approached. Commander Park pressed a single control, and a shimmering field surrounded the Pathfinder. The torpedoes struck the field and simply vanished. "Phase shift defense screen functioning at optimal levels," reported Dr. Chandra from the engineering station. "Power consumption minimal." The Vraxian commander's face showed clear shock. "What are you?" "We are humans," Captain Chen replied, "from Earth, and we'd like to talk." He turned to his first officer. "Commander Okafor, what's the status of the Novan fleet?" Okafor consulted her display. "Admiral Kelso is implementing our tactical suggestions. Her vessels are repositioning now." Chen nodded approvingly. "Open a channel to both fleets." The communications officer's hands moved over his console. "Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Chen of the TES Pathfinder. We are here to facilitate peace negotiations between the Vraxian Dominion and the Novan Alliance. We suggest a temporary ceasefire while terms are discussed." The Vraxian commander's response was immediate. "We do not negotiate with defeated enemies. The Novan forces will surrender unconditionally or be destroyed." Captain Chen sighed. "I was hoping for a more diplomatic approach." He turned to his tactical officer. "Commander Park, disable the weapon systems on their 3 lid capital ships." Then to his science officer. "Dr. Chandra, prepare a data packet for transmission to the Novan fleet." Park's fingers flew over her console. 3 precise beams of energy lanced out from the Pathfinder, each finding its target with unerring accuracy. The massive Vraxian warships suddenly found themselves without offensive capabilities. "Data packet ready for transmission," Dr. Chandra reported. "Send it," Chen ordered. "Lieutenant Rivera, keep the channel to both fleets open." On the tactical display, the remaining Novan vessels began to move with new purpose, implementing the battle strategies provided by the Pathfinder. Despite their damaged state, they maneuvered with coordinated precision, targeting the vulnerabilities in the Vraxian ships that the human vessel had identified. The Vraxian fleet, faced with this unexpected turn of events, began to break formation. Their numerical advantage meant little when their weapons couldn't penetrate the Pathfinder's defenses, and the Novan ships were now exploiting weaknesses they'd never been able to detect before. "Captain," Commander Okafor reported, "the civilian evacuation transports are making a run for the jump point. The Novan cruiser Horizon is moving to escort them." Chen nodded. "Have Dr. Chandra transmit shield harmonics to the Horizon. They can extend protection to the civilian vessels." On the main screen, the Vraxian Supreme Commander's face had shifted from outrage to something approximating concern. "This interference will not be forgotten," he hissed. "The Vraxian dominion spans hundreds of systems. You cannot protect the Novans forever." "Perhaps not," Chen agreed, "but we can protect them today. And tomorrow, we'll discuss a permanent solution that benefits all parties." "You speak of negotiation while attacking our ships," the Vraxian snarled. "I disabled your weapons after you fired on us," Chen corrected. "There's a difference. Now, shall we discuss terms, or would you prefer a demonstration of what happens when we target engines instead of weapons?" For a long moment, the Vraxian commander stared at Chen, calculating. Finally, he spoke. "What terms do you propose?" Chen smiled, genuinely this time. "An immediate cessation of hostilities, the establishment of a demilitarized zone along the current border, and negotiations for a lasting peace, with Earth serving as a neutral mediator." "And if we refuse?" Chen's expression hardened. "Then we'll be forced to demonstrate more of our capabilities. Capabilities that, I assure you, go far beyond what you've witnessed today." Another long silence. "Then, we will withdraw to discuss your proposal. You have 6 hours before we return with our decision." The transmission ended abruptly. "They're pulling back," Commander Park reported, surprise evident in her voice. "All Vraxian vessels are retreating to the outer system. They'll use the time to analyze our technology and call for reinforcements," Okafor noted. Chen nodded. "Of course they will. And by the time they return, the Artemis and the Hermes will have arrived with the diplomatic courts." He turned to Rivera. "Hail Admiral Kelso. Let's discuss our next steps." Admiral Kelso's face appeared on screen, a mixture of hope and suspicion in her eyes. "Captain Chen, I don't know whether to thank you or question your motives. Why would Earth intervene in a conflict so far from your territory?" The simple answer: "Admiral, enlightened self-interest," Chen replied honestly. "Earth is expanding, and we prefer stable neighbors to conquering empires." The more complex answer involves hundreds of years of human history that taught us some hard lessons about conquest versus cooperation. Kelso studied him carefully. "And what do you want in return for this intervention?" "Open diplomatic relations, trade agreements, cultural exchange, and eventually, perhaps, alliance." Chen leaned forward. "Admiral, humanity's journey to the stars has been a solitary one so far. We'd like to change that." For the first time since the battle began, Admiral Kelso smiled. "I believe that can be arranged, Captain. Though I suspect the Novan Council will have many questions about these humans who appeared out of nowhere with technology beyond anything we've seen." "We look forward to answering them," Chen replied. "In the meantime, your civilian transports are nearly at the jump point. They'll be safe soon." Kelso nodded gratefully. "Thanks to you. When this is over, Captain Chen, I hope you'll share the story of Earth with us. It must be a remarkable world to produce beings such as yourselves." Chen smiled, thinking of humanity's long, often violent history, their struggles and triumphs, their relentless drive to explore and understand. "It is, Admiral. It certainly is." As the Pathfinder moved to take up position alongside the battered Novan flagship, Chen couldn't help but appreciate the historical significance of this moment. Humanity's first major intervention in interstellar politics would reshape this region of space for generations to come. The war wasn't over, but the tide had turned, and Earth had announced its presence to the stars in a way that would not soon be forgotten.